Welcome aboard, everybody. This is Commandant's Corner. We are changing the name next month during National. We've got some good names tossed around, but it is not just for commandants, senior vices, or any other title you might have out there. It's for every Marine Corps League member, and even some topics are relevant to the auxiliary. So we hope to have you on board this month and every month moving forward. There are no Commandant's Corner scheduled for August as we all prepare to celebrate 100 years together in Oklahoma City. So tonight, it is 19:05 Eastern Standard Time. Commandant's Corner, our topic of discussion is Rust Insurance. If you have never heard of Rust Insurance, you have no idea why we're even talking about this, you're in the right place. So without further ado, we're going to take 5, 10, 15, however many minutes that Billy needs, and we're going to introduce Billy from Rust Insurance, our liaison at the Marine Corps League. Come on down, sir.
Hi, everybody. I would like to think that maybe everybody's at least heard of Rust Insurance. We've been doing the insurance for the Marine Corps League for, oh my God, 30 years plus. I myself have been handling the Marine Corps League for 20 plus years. And a little fun fact about Rust, we are actually the oldest independent insurance agency in the country. We were founded in 1889. So I actually made that official this summer, thanks to the Google machine. For those of you that aren't familiar, Rust Insurance handles all of the insurance for the national membership for the Marine Corps League and for the headquarters. And the headquarters insurance is a bit more involved. It's very trimmed down for you, the members. I have spoken at numerous events for Marine Corps League midwinter conferences, and I've even gone out to went out to the 65th and the 70th anniversaries of Iwo Jima to Iwo Jima. I've been to Saipan, Tinian, Guam, Iwo with the Marines, the Marine Corps League, and the Young Marines, which is another client of mine. We have multiple fraternal military organizations, Special Forces, Submarine Veterans Association. So we run the gamut. So I guess what I'm getting at with that is we know what the league needs. We know how to handle the league's insurance and help mitigate risk for you, the members, as you get into your activities. And I know firsthand, speaking to Marine Corps leaguers around the country, multiple times, literally every single day, that you're a very active group. So the insurance that, and it's actually quite streamlined, but there is some confusion in the semantics. While the headquarters has multiple lines of insurance, the detachments have just one, general liability. It's what keeps you all out of trouble should there be any third-party bodily injury or property damage. For instance, you're collecting Toys for Tots at a Safeway grocery store. Somebody trips on the table and chips their tooth or skins their knee or breaks their shoulder or something. And they say, it was the Marine Corps League table that was set up. That's why it fell. You get sued. That's what's going to back you out of it. Liability is essential when you're out doing, and I know that you all do many, many different things. It's been a moving target and a negotiation process with me and travelers over the year. First of all, I'll get into the market. Insurance market is very narrow when it comes to not nonprofits, but when it comes to national membership. When you're dealing with tens of thousands of members around the country, moving, sometimes telling me what they're doing, sometimes not telling me what they're doing, it makes an underwriter quite skittish. I've done a really good job at training travelers on how to respond and react and where to ease up on the restrictions. So as you all get into things like, and I'll go through some of the extremes, shooting matches or races, runs, activities that involve physical exertion, those aren't really contemplated in the underwriting process that the underwriter went through when they looked at Marine Corps League as a whole. They did narrow it down to the more mundane, quieter activities, toys for tots, picnics for your detachment, even if family comes. Marine Corps League balls, the individual balls that you have. Serving hot dogs at a baseball game. We had one detachment that was selling beer and hot dogs at a game, and taking some of the proceeds from it. They are not in the business of manufacturing and distributing beer. So you have what's called host liquor liability, where you can give the beer away. So if you have events where you have food and beer or wine or something, if you're giving it away, it's fine. If it's part of a ticket to get in, it's fine. But really the idea behind what's covered when you all do an event are the more Marine Corps League type situations where you're having a meeting or you're collecting toys or you're fundraising of some sort. We do get calls for poker runs. We get calls for shooting matches. We get calls for all kinds of things. It is not typically going to be something that's going to be covered. So here's the good news. Good news is sometimes I can negotiate to get it covered with the underwriter. If they say no, there is another market that we go to. It's another carrier that we write a one day policy that covers that event specifically. So if you're having a poker run or motorcycles, or you're running a race, or you've got a golf tournament, if the underwriter who writes the traveler's policy that you all have right now says no, there's too many people, there's 700 people, we can't do it, we can find you another way of getting it done. But really that insurance is for the quieter events, but there can be negotiation in between. It's a moving target. So what I've done, and I know it's on the Marine Corps League website too, but I have set up a website for the Marine Corps League. It's a very easy website. So if anybody wants to write it down, grab a pen, and I'm sure you can remember it. It's Rust, that's me, R-U-S-T, MCL.com, rustmcl.com. That's it. Just do that, rustmcl.com, and you will see a letter from me. You'll see a summary of coverage. You'll see the do's and do nots. And then at the bottom, you'll see a certificate request form that you can fill out. If you're doing something at, say, a grocery store where you're collecting toys for tots, and the grocery store wants a certificate of liability insurance, naming that store as an additional insured, so that when somebody does trip on the table, break their shoulder, and sue you, they're also going to sue Safeway because it was on Safeway's ground. Your policy will protect Safeway as well. That's question 18 and 19 on the cert. It says something along the lines of, is anybody asking you for a certificate? If so, who? And I will add that in the cert. Certs are free. All you got to do is send it in to me. There's even a red link up at the top that says, click here to fill it out online. You can do it on your iPhone. You can do it on your laptop. It goes right to my assistant's email address, Sue Prack. I'm sure some of you know her. And she will hammer that certificate right out, and you'll have it in minutes. And if there's any questions into something you're getting into, call me. Everyone calls me. I've been talking to Marine Corps leaguers for, like I said, 20 plus years, and I speak to them daily, and I speak to them multiple daily, at least one, but it's usually, I'd say, 2 or 3 different detachments every day. So it's always best to check, because the important thing I think to remember here is that the overall health and well-being of the Marine Corps League insurance program as a whole, which is protecting your detachment and everyone's detachment, is to act responsibly in that you check with me first before you do it, or fill out the questionnaire of what you're doing first, even if you don't need a certificate. Just fill it out and send it to me. What that does is it allows me to pre-underwrite. So I can look at it, say you're going to do a fireworks show and you're lighting off those big barrels of fireworks, and no one's asking you for a certificate because you're doing it in your backyard. Dangerous. I could look at that, and you're putting 200 people in your backyard that you don't know. I would call you and say, that's not a good idea. I would not do that. I'd advise against it. And so it allows me to sort of quell a potential issue before it becomes an issue. Because if there is a catastrophic loss on some account, some event that one of you puts together, it's not to say it wouldn't be covered, but it would cost the Marine Corps League its insurance program. So it's important to put the whole league in mind when you're doing an event. Is this going to be something that could go bad? And should I run it by Billy first? Always run it by me. I answer every call. I answer every email. I'm always available. So that gives you an idea of what is our insurance for? Okay, well, when we raise money, when we're raising money at a rest stop, or we're serving coffee, or we're serving hot dogs, or we're having a small picnic, or we are getting toys for tots, that sort of thing. Starts getting into the golf tournaments and the races and the shooting matches and anything outside of that. Fill out that questionnaire and send it in to me. If it's a problem, I'll let you know. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'd welcome any questions.
Well, we've already got questions coming in, but before we open up the question, I see you over there, Collier. We'll get to you in just a minute. I do have one of my national officers that snuck in, and he usually is very loud, but yeah, he was kind of quiet when he snuck in. So we'd like to ask our national judge advocate just to say a few words and welcome everybody to the room. Oh, I also see my senior vice is just logged in. So let's go ahead with J.A. Miller. You got any words of wisdom to offer our audience tonight?
Hello, everybody, and no, I have no wisdom.
Well, there it is in a nutshell.
One thing, Billy, that may come up, and it's just if you could touch on as we go through this evening, as Toys for Tots coordinators, we have to fill out a form there with Toys for Tots, and just what's the relationship between Marine Corps League Detachment filling out a form, Toys for Tots coordinator fills out a form. I go with that old adage, you can never have too much insurance, but, that would probably be a good thing to tackle as we go through.
You mean the importance of filling out a form even for Toys for Tots for Rust?
No, the fact that as detachment or as coordinators, we have a form that we fill out through Toys for Tots for any events that we're doing and so forth. And just, that it doesn't hurt to fill them both out, both at the detachment level to cover the league, but also Toys for Tots coordinator is going to have to fill one out on that side of the fence too.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to register your activities with Toys for Tots. They're a separate entity. The importance in filling out the certificate request form for Rust is usually the venue that really it's just one reason. It's always going to be covered. You're collecting toys for kids, not a problem on the Rust on the insurance that you have through Rust. Where it comes into play is that venue's always going to want to be named as an additional insured. That's where you'll add it in question 18 and 19. So that I see it and I go, oh, Detachment 17 is doing Toys for Tots and Safeway on 123 Main Street needs a cert. I'll walk it over to Sue's desk and say, Sue, hammer that cert out and send it right back to that email address. And you'll have it in hand to give to the store, and the store goes, now you may enter and set up your table. Because those venues aren't going to want to set, they don't want you stepping foot in there until you prove that you're going to cover them if something goes sideways. Does that answer your, okay, good.
Thank you so much for that. Senior Vice Griffin, any words of wisdom for the group before I start taking some of these questions where the hands are up?
First, I'd like to apologize. Microsoft decided they want to change my login procedure and we want to update it. So Microsoft, if you're on the line, please leave me alone so I can just get on when I feel like getting on, not when you allow me to get on. But that being said, this topic is very important for the Marine Corps League throughout the country. We have nice events. Everybody is nice. Everybody is great, unless there's a problem. And when money is involved with some sort of lawsuit, even the nicest person in the world, they may not say, oh, let's not sue anybody. but maybe somebody in their family says, oh no, you're gonna sue them over this. You broke your ankle, you hurt yourself. So to have the insurance, to have the certificate is very, very important. Within my own department, when I was department commandant, I had to use Rust because we had somebody abscond with money, and Rust was very, very good, very quick, very easy to deal with. They appreciated it very much at the time. So Billy, I give you kudos for your company. You run a very good company.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We've been doing it a long time, and we specialize in nonprofits and like I said, fraternal organizations. So we do know what to do, how to handle, and how to set up insurance for groups like the Marine Corps League. You make a good point. There is bonding insurance. Now, it's unfortunate, the absconding of money. It happens. And every detachment is covered for up to $10,000. Now, that is not, obviously, you all know this, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say, that's not an invitation to take money. In fact, we had one year where there were so many claims, travelers threatened to drop us, and I had to fight for it to keep it because it would have been very difficult to replace on this level with that kind of blanket coverage, and it would have been very expensive. And so we were able to keep it. And since then, controls have been put into place. I know those of you that know, excuse me, Bob Borka in the national headquarters, we devised sort of a written instruction as to really who should handle the money. And you should really limit who handles that money to like 2 people, really. I mean, it shouldn't be, hey, take this wad of cash over there, put it on John's desk, and then John, give it to Pete, and Pete, you run it down to the bank. It should be 1 or 2 people max. Just to keep things short, sweet. If it goes missing, you only have to look at 1 or 2 places because everybody will point at the other guy going, like, give it to him. So it's important to in order to mitigate those losses, really narrow down who is handling cash in your detachment.
All right. Thank you so much, Billy. Okay, we're going to open it up to questions. We have a lineup. I want to reiterate to everybody how to virtually raise your hand. I cannot see the 81 participants on board by waving at the camera. To virtually raise your hand, you hover across the bottom of your screen. You'll see a thing called reactions, little smiley face kind of looks like. And then you'll click raise your hand and it'll default. There is absolutely no question that is too small or too large. If you do not ask these questions, then everybody in the room is not going to get those answers. So welcome everybody. And MCL 2023, I know him as Collier James. You are up first. Mr. Slater, you are up next. Go ahead, Collier.
Just one quick question on the questionnaire.
Yeah.
How far in advance should we be sending that in?
That's a good question. So on the questionnaire, it says 2 weeks, right? People send them in 10 minutes before their event. I would say this, we turn them around when we get them. We get them, we turn them right around. That's how I work. I make sure that you get what you need when you need it. I would ask, because we have multiple coming in at one time, get it in as soon as you can. If you know something's coming up August 27th, send it in today. We'll get you that cert. I'd say at least if you can get it to me a week or 2 earlier, wonderful. But sometimes people forget, or it comes up last minute, or they don't realize they need one. A certificate naming a third party as an additional insured. But like I said in my opening statement, whether or not you need a certificate, it's just best practices to fill out that certificate request form for everything you do, so that I've got it. We have every single one we've ever received from every detachment. I could go back and look at one from 15 years ago. We have them categorized, we've got them laid out. So we like to keep record, and we like to know what each detachment is doing. whether or not you need a certificate back from us or not, because on that website, there's already a certificate in there. It's a blank one. It's got, if you look down in the lower left-hand corner, it says certificate holder. I think it's blank, but it shows your coverages. And if somebody says, hey, your detachment can use my building for your event, and you'll go, great. And they'll go, give me a certificate, but they don't ask to be an additional insured. You can give them that blank one. Oh, here's one other thing too. The other thing to keep in mind is this, and this is important actually. The Marine Corps League insurance is for the Marine Corps League. I mean, this is what was underwritten. This is what was contemplated. This is how it was built. It was built on your activities. Every time you add a third party as an additional insurance, sometimes it's inevitable. You've got to do it for Safeway, for Toys for Tots, or whatever. You're extending your coverage to somebody else. So if you have $1 million in the event of a loss and someone breaks their collarbone because they tripped on the curb outside your event, you're going to chew through that limit, and the Safeway is going to chew through your limit, because that policy now is going to two places to protect. You really want to keep it just for you. Here's the point. If they're not asking, don't offer it. If they're not asking, do not offer it. That's my advice. I would say if you can get away with not supplying a cert, you should still fill out the certificate request form for me. And if they want a certificate from you, but have not asked to be named as an additional insured, don't offer it. Give them the blank one. Only add an additional insured if they require it. And if they require it, it's okay.
All right. Thank you very much,
It's
Billy. And
okay.
thank you, Collier, for that question. All right, moving right along.
Thank you.
Clifton Slater, you are up. Skip Nakashima, you are on deck. Go ahead, Clifton.
Hey, good evening. We are putting on we have the honor of hosting the state convention next year in 2024. What kind of certificates do we need for that, or do we need anything?
Yeah, you don't need anything unless the venue's asking you for one. You have it at a hotel, like in a Marriott or something?
Probably, yeah, probably. Well, we're in Henderson in Las Vegas, so it's going to be one of the resorts. So they pretty much cover themselves.
Yeah, they may or may not. I mean, they've got, those resorts have liability insurance up the wazoo, and they tend not to ask for it from everybody using it. If they're not asking for it, don't offer it. Have your event and do what you need to. If they ask, let me know.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you very much, Clifton Slater. Skip Nakashima, you're up. Rory Nichols, you're on deck. Go ahead, Skip.
Yeah, Billy, my question is, our detachment is hosting the Marine Corps Birthday Ball at a venue away from our established area. Do we need that? Or are we covered automatically, the
Yeah.
certificate with the insurance?
Yeah, you're always covered. Let me rephrase that. For those types of things, yeah, you've got coverage. It doesn't matter if it's off your established meeting point, or if you go and use another like I said, a third party venue like a Marriott or the Moosehead Lodge or whatever it is, you're good. The liability follows you. Yep.
Great question. Thank you so much, Skip. Rory, you're up. Sandra Bernard, you're on deck. Go ahead, Rory.
Hey, Billy, I have two questions actually for you. So first question is, my detachment has been lucky enough that we've had somebody gift us a new trailer to hold supplies, take to events, things like that. So my question is regarding, insurance for that. Is that something we could do through you, or would it just be better to get a local policy from somewhere?
Yeah, that's a good question. We get that question a lot, actually. My suggestion would be get it through a State Farm agent in your town or something. I'm not going to have a market just to write a one-off on a trailer. That's an auto issue. It's actually even though it doesn't have an engine, it's got wheels on it, it's pulled by a car, it makes it part of a car, auto policy. It is not something that is extended to the detachments to the national program. Only general liability goes to the detachment. So to answer your question, with a good question, I'm sure more than a few of you probably had that question in your head, as we get it all the time, to go to a local agent somewhere in your town and just say, look, we got a trailer, we need it covered. That's it.
Okay. And the second question, and I think it's probably more complicated than we can do here. So maybe I'll give you a call. You know, one of my peers is, I think, called and talked to you about, we've been given a grant from our city through, you know, the American Rescue Plan funds, you know, $14,000 grant, but the city is requiring some special kind of insurance that seems to go beyond just having them named as a, you know, a name liability.
Yeah.
So I have some more of the details. I don't want to bother anybody here because it's probably very unique.
They probably want a bond. They probably want a bond so that depending on what you're going to do with the money, you know, if you've received money from the town, it comes with directions or some parameters of how you can spend it.
Right. So we can spend it on, you know, administrative expenses, things like that. And they've actually given, you know, a sizable amount of money to, you know, all the veterans groups that are in our town. So about $15,000 each to us. Wow. Because we weren't able to do fundraising through the pandemic. So part of that, they gave it to us. But yes, they're requiring this in insurance, and we're all kind of struggling on what exactly we need to provide or get.
Have they put it in writing to you at all?
They have. It's not super easy for me to understand, not being in the insurance side of things, but
send it to me. Yeah, so let me look at it.
Okay. What's the best way to reach out to you? Is there email on the website or something?
Yeah, my email's easy. It's billy@rustinsurance.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. And that's great. Your town's doing that. That's what a nice thing.
Thank you so much. Great question. And again, there's no such thing as a small question or a large question. Hopefully who got those details offline. Sandra Bernard, you are up. Dave and PA, you are on deck. Go ahead, Sandra.
Yes, thank you. In our local community, our Reapers Detachment 850 is planning on the potential to include ourselves in very large fairgrounds activities. In our small town, it could really benefit us a great deal. From the mayor's format that she gave me earlier this month, they require a line of coverage that, should anything happen, particularly names them to be covered along with us on a one-time only coverage event. So is that something that I can get from you?
That's that question 18 and 19 on the certificate request form. So what you're doing, what they want to be named is they want to be named as an additional insured on your policy. So they're
saying it's $500,000 coverage. Is that something that is out of the ballpark, or
you have $1 million?
I have $1 million. Okay.
Yeah. So,
I don't think anything's ever going to happen, but whatever they need, we're certainly going to give them if we can.
Yeah, that's fine. You know, to touch on that, parades, fairgrounds, you know, all those things, you can participate in the town's program. If the town is having a carnival and you set up a booth, or if there's a parade in your town and you are marching in it, you can do that. You're covered. You can't sponsor it because you're on the hook for anything that goes wrong, for anybody that shows up, from little Bobby that bites into a bad hot dog and gets food poisoning, to Jimmy who wasn't paying attention and tripped over one of the rides, or got run over by somebody's car that was in the parade that wasn't paying attention because they were texting. it's going to roll right downhill to the Marine Corps League. So you can't sponsor it, but you can take part in it.
Thank you very
Sure.
much.
You
All
bet.
right, great questions. Thank you, Sandra. David P, you're up. Jim M, you're on deck. Go ahead, Dave.
Hi there. I want to talk a little bit more about financial issues. You mentioned one or two people responsible for your money in your detachment. I want to encourage everybody to have at least two and possibly three.
Right.
Because if you only got one person and that one person either disappears through, passing or, disappears with all your money, you're screwed. Now, in that event, you mentioned that the liability is up to $10,000. Explain that a little bit in more detail. What does that actually mean?
And that's a good point. Checks and balances. So you want to make sure that that any money that's passing through has to be cleared and okayed before anything is spent, credit cards are used or anything, by at least two people, so that you have to get permission. For instance, if you're signing a check, the best way to do is have two people need to sign that check. Or the person that reconciles the bills isn't the one that pays the bills. You need to have two. It's separation of duty. That the $10,000 limit, and that's a blanket limit, so each detachment is afforded $10,000, means that if up to $10,000 can go missing and you'll get it replaced. If $11,000 goes missing, you're only getting 10 back. I don't know that I've seen it go up to the full 10, but I've seen it go in the thousands, and I've seen it multiple times. It's real easy to do. And it's real easy in most cases to track that tifement and be able to, for the detachment to recoup back those losses. But the carrier has paid out multiple
And if I can follow up briefly, what about online fraud? I understand that is not one of the.
Dave,
that's different. Yeah, that's very different. That's cyber insurance, and online is a very broad stroke in terminology. Unfortunately, once COVID started, cyber crime became a thing, a real big thing. It's happening about once every 11 seconds, and cyber. Not to bore you with the details, but cyber liability has become a major sticking point in the industry, industry-wide, and a class of businesses, doesn't matter. Every single business is affected. So no, this would be for funds that are coming in and go missing by one of the Marine Corps League members, or and it's cash. Usually you all deal with cash or some access to bank accounts. If somebody funnels that out internally, you're covered up to $10,000. But cyber has become a big issue, and the Marine Corps League headquarters does have a cyber policy. So yes, good question. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Dave. Good
I
questions.
had to get my mic off mute. But yes, I understand that we don't have that coverage. Can we get that coverage, and how much might that cost?
Oh, so it would be difficult for, I think, detachments to get it. Typically, it's for those that have databases that house personal information or proprietary information. Underwriting is heavily scrutinized. It requires multi-factor authentication for those that are logging in. It's actually quite a production. For money that goes missing out of your bank account because the person that can't, and I think this is what you're getting at, the person that's handling the money logs into their the detachment's Wells Fargo account and moves $10,000 from the Wells into their account. That's covered. That's missing money. What I'm talking about is unauthorized access. So it's a breach of your systems that you didn't realize was happening or came in, and it was malicious.
Okay, well, actually, particular incident I'm thinking about was somebody got a bad email and gave somebody a bunch of money, but they had no idea where it was going.
So that's called, so there's another one. It's called social engineering.
Okay,
And that's
that's the one. Yeah.
That's a fancy term for phishing. And I, believe me, the league has that, the detachments don't. And I don't know that we'd be able to get it for the individual detachments. There are all kinds of things that come along with that. In order for coverage to engage, you'd have to call. You see, you get the email saying, hey, it's Joe with the Marine Corps, and I need you to send me this amount of money. Or if you had employees, I'll give you an example. We had one nonprofit, big animal conservation group in Washington. And this woman got an email from the CFO. It was not the CFO, asking for everyone's W-2. Send me everybody's W-2. I'm working on a program. She sent over 300 W-2s, went right out the door. And the next day, taxes were being filed and identities were being stolen. So it's a different, there's a lot you would have to do for the claim to be covered. I guess that's the best way to put it. Now, I'll tell you what I tell my employees. If it looks fishy, it is fishy. Do not open it. Don't click on the link. If you don't recognize it, always check the email. If you know a guy in your detachment named Joe Smith, and it says it's coming from Joe Smith, double click on Joe Smith's name, and it will say Eastern Europe at igotcha.com. It'll be some bogus email that they just used Joe Smith's name because they watched you trade emails with Joe Smith. My dad, he does it all the time. He's 79 and he says, hey, Billy, I got this thing in the mail. I can't tell if it's, and I go, Dad, don't open it. Just throw it away. Now, if you accidentally throw away something that is important, they will email you again with more information. Or if you're not sure, pick up the phone and call somebody and say, did you just send me this thing? So it's important to double check it. Do not send money. My God, we've all seen the 2020 specials on TV where people are throwing their life savings out to Nigeria or some business group in London.
All right, Billy, we're going to need to wind it up. We're running out of time. We're running out of time.
No, I apologize.
That's all right. I just had to bring you back in. We only have 15 minutes. In the interest of time, I'm going to take the hands that are up. If you have a specific question, please take it offline. If it has been asked and answered, please, just wait for the recording and we'll repeat it back to you. Jim M., you're up. Jerry and Jim, you're on deck. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I have one question. If our detachment's doing a road cleanup and we have the ROTC and Young Marines help us, are they covered under our insurance?
No, they'd be covered under their own. I mean, we write the Young Marines too, and they've got an accident policy for the kids and liability just like you. No, you're fine. I mean, it would depend. It would depend on the particulars of the claim, but in a broad stroke, they would have their own, and you have your own. And that's fine.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Great question. Thank you, Jim, for that question. Jerry and Jim, you're up. Rosie, you're on deck. Go ahead, Jim. Go ahead, Jerry and Jim. You're muted. Hang on, let's get him unmuted. Jim, you're on mute right now. Nobody can hear you. Hang on, there you go.
Okay, hi, Billy. We do fundraisers out there for at stores, supermarkets, and a couple of other ones. We distribute flags and roses, and of course we do candies also. What is the host responsibility and liability there? Do we need a certificate for that?
No, you don't, again, you don't need a certificate unless they're asking for it. Sometimes the storage unit will want to have a certificate because you're using their space, and you can get it through me
You
by filling out
you
the
want
questionnaire.
to see is our nonprofit. Which
What,
I see-
I'm sorry?
The only thing they say, want to see, Bill, is our nonprofit status. That's all.
No, wonderful. Just give them that. Like I said, if they don't ask, don't offer it. The contents in that storage unit are not covered because we're not covering property. We're only covering liability. So just like auto, there's no coverage for the contents. So if you got 100 flags in there and they're worth $10 a piece, if it burns up, they're gone. Just something to consider. In a storage unit, sometimes you can buy for $5 a month or $2 a month coverage for the contents.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you for that question. Great questions coming in. Rosie Beal, you are up. Dan Entis, you are on deck. Go ahead, Rosie.
Yes. Do we have to get a certificate when our firing party does an event? When they do like the 21 gun salute?
No, I mean, you're firing blanks, right? I mean, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, good. No, I mean, again, you don't need a certificate unless you are being asked for one specifically.
Okay. All right. That's good. Thanks.
Just make sure
Sure.
you put blanks in there now, Rosie. You behave out there.
Yeah, the blanks, please.
I'll make sure the Marines do.
All right. Thank you, Rosie. Dan, you are up, and our way, you are on deck. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, my question, just for clarification, we host a golf outing every year in August, and I want just a question about the coverage. Who all's covered? Just the Marine Corps League members or anybody playing in the event? Just for
So
clarification.
remember, the coverage is liability, so it's third-party bodily injury and property damage. So if you tee off and you bean someone in the head with the ball and they go down and they sue you because you're liable, it's going to cover the Marine Corps League when you get sued, inevitably. For things like golf tournaments, again, sometimes those can be covered if they meet certain parameters, number of people, et cetera. Otherwise, I would need to know so that I can cover it specifically through that one-day policy.
So do I need to fill out a request form and send it in to you, or?
Yeah, always fill out a request form for anything you do at all. It's just, like I said, it's best practices to fill. It takes 2 seconds, fire it into me just so I got it. Yeah,
Well,
that'd be
that's
great.
the form that's on that one website. It's the one all the way
Correct.
on the bottom. There's 4 forms. There's the one on the bottom. That's the one?
That's correct. Yes,
Okay.
special event questionnaire. Yep,
All right, thank you.
sure.
Great questions. Again, rather have it, not need it, and need it, not have it. So thank you, Billy. Our way, you're up, and Donna Ray Smith, you are on deck. My final question for the evening. Go ahead.
Okay, Bill, this is Bob Way in El Paso, Texas. Our unit, a couple times a year, will host 2 physical events. One is the Marine Corps League's Youth Physical Fitness, and then the other one we call is the No Skills Field Meet with the JROTCs. Part of our applications are a hold harmless agreement. Are those things worth the paper to print it on?
Hold harmless agreements are a great idea, but any lawyer is going to Swiss cheese it if there's a lawsuit. It's only as good as the paper it's written on. Now, most people will decide that they won't or can't or shouldn't sue because they signed it. But any savvy person that's got an issue and a couple $100 to tee up a lawyer, they're going to come tearing right in.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is most of the ROTCs, like you say, they're already covered. And
Yeah.
The youth physical fitness, comes under the league anyway. It's one of their programs.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
We talked for a while about getting that its own insurance. Trying to think of the gentleman's name. He was the executive director. It's escaping me right now. But anyway, it never went to fruition. But yeah, there's coverage there, and I would encourage you to have them continue to have them signed. If somebody gets hurt, I mean, they may not sue. It's a good idea in theory. Doesn't always work.
Yeah. most of the injuries, you know, the kids, they do strange and mysterious things.
True, true.
Young again. Thank you so much for that. Donna Ray, go ahead. Your question, and then I have one in the chat I'd also like to ask. Go ahead, Donna Ray.
Thank you. Billy, through the entire video, you talk about detachments. The Marine Corps League Auxiliary, I'm sure they're covered if they're doing an event with the detachment. What if the unit is doing something on their own without the detachment?
That's fine. The auxiliary is part of the name, is in what we call the named insured. It's the Devil Dogs, Auxiliary, Marine Corps League. We got a slew of them. So you're fine. You're covered.
So we just go on that website and fill that information out.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had.
Sure.
Very good question. I see. I learn something every time I host one of these things. The question came in, Billy. I'm going to read it verbatim. Ask Billy to explain how the application of the $1,000 deductible is applied. Many detachments think the maximum they could receive is $9,000. That's how it came to me.
There's no deductible. Oh, this is for the bonding. So yes, there's $1,000. They want, what the insurance company wants you to have is a little skin in the game. You got to pay out the first 1,000. They'll pay out the rest. That's correct. So they basically, they want to make sure that in keeping you engaged in sharing in the loss, so to speak, that you will be a little more careful about how you handle the money. So deductibles are necessary. Deductibles are always part of. What's that?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, deductibles are part of just about every insurance coverage other than GL, general liability. So there's no deductible there, but everything else has a deductible. Directors and officers policy, $1 million policy will have a $25,000 deductible. So they want to make sure that there are repercussions for you if there's an issue. It's every insurance company, it's every line of coverage everywhere worldwide is like that.
Standing. Okay, if everybody, once again, there is a chat box that is open. In that chat box, Ray Morrell has put in, once again, the rustmcl.com access to the insurance form. That's www.rustmcl.com to get that form, or you can contact Billy directly at Billy, easy peasy, BILLY, Bravo, India, Lima, Yankee, at rustinsurance, no spaces.com. So Billy, thank you so much. You have brought to light to
you're welcome.
83 members we had peaked at one time. We will get this recording edited and put on the YouTube channel. So thank you very much for your time and attendance. Before I actually press stop record, I always tell everybody when our next Commandant's Corner will be. We only have one more before our national convention. It is an unplugged version, which means I will not be recording it. We're going to have some social time talking about the national convention and what to expect, what to pack, what are we doing, how do I stand, when should I come, those type of things. We're going to have a first time chat. That's going to be Thursday, July 27th at regular bat channel, bat time, 1900, right here Eastern Standard Time. Again, Thursday, July 27th, unplugged. That is Commandant's Corner. Thank you all for attending tonight. Once I click unrecord or not record or stop record, whatever that button says to me, we will have some social time offline. Billy, you're welcome to stay as long as you like, but some of these guys might yank you a little bit too hard, but you go ahead and escape however you need to. Semper Fidelis to everyone. And as I close all my Commandant's Corners, good night, Testy, wherever you are.